Let's discuss how CAD software, any CAD software, does assemblies. Also remember that Catia actually calls an assembly a product. It uses the word assembly for something different. But before we talk about assemblies, let's talk about how any CAD software does individual parts. So whether it's Inventor, SolidWorks, Mastercam, or Catia, how do they handle an individual part? Well, they have to create a file to hold the geometry for the part. And depending on the CAD software, the file names will be a little different. In the case of Catia, the file format is called a .cat part. Can a single file hold more than one part? The answer is yes. But the real question should be, should a single file hold multiple parts? The answer is absolutely not. Can you imagine if it was not 2 parts but 3, 4, 5, or 1,000 parts? These files would become so large and massive no computer in the world could open them. So CAD software had to come up with a way to make large assemblies that could be opened with tens of thousands of parts maybe. So here we see a product or assembly in Catia. Of course, we call these products in Catia that has multiple parts. And in this case, we have 3 files, 2 cat parts and 1 cat product. Now, how does all this happen? Well, this happens through the concept of instantiation. The cat part is the actual CAD geometry for the part. The cat product simply has a visualization of the part. Think of it as a part as having an axis system. And the assembly doesn't contain the parts, it actually just contains places where those axis systems are supposed to be and then visualizes the parts at those locations. So the part contains the actual CAD geometry. The product contains visualizations or the location data for the parts. If we modify the part, here we've made the part taller, all visualizations of that part in the product would also be changed. Now, can we actually modify a part in the product? The answer is yes, but it's through a little bit of trickery. We actually go into part design mode within the product. So it kind of takes this part workbench and pulls it into the assembly, and we modify it there. But remember, we're really modifying the cat part file. We weren't modifying the cat product file. So when we modify the cat part file, all instances of that cat part have to be modified as well. So in the case of our original example, here we have a product with 5 instances of 2 parts. So we still only have 3 files. Okay. Well, you might ask yourself, well, how big are these files? We know that the wheel and the block have to have actual geometry in them. What kind of things go into the product? So let's talk about the concept of positional links. Here we have the block with its axis system. And in the assembly, we have actually the files not there. We have just the little axis systems for those files. Those can't be very big. So if we were to actually open an empty product, we'd see that it's very small. Let's say it's 13 kilobytes. And let's say the block is 60 kilobytes. When we put the block into the product, instead of being 13 plus 60, it's only 13 plus 3, and axis system's only about 3 kilobytes. And in fact, if we put in even more instances, it ends up being 3 plus 1, even smaller. So these products are very manageable in size. You can visualize 1,000 parts and still have a manageable product that can be opened on a reasonable sized computer. So here we see that we can have a reasonable sized computer with reasonable memory to open a product. So in our example, the concept of instantiation here, we see that we have 3 files still for our product. Now, workbenches are tools that Catia provides to work on these parts and products. The primary tool we use to work on parts is called the Part Design Workbench. The primary tool we have to work on a product is called the Assembly Design Workbench. So again, Catia uses the word assembly for a workbench, where it uses the product for what other CAD systems may call assembly. But there's actually more than one workbench that can work on a part, and there's multiple workbenches that can work on an assembly. And there are even other workbenches, like the drafting workbench, for even other files that are created. So we might have not just part files and product files, but we might have drafting files and even analysis files. This class will focus on the Part Design Workbench to work on parts.